2, 1. All right, episode 21. We are live.
Hello, everyone. I'm Frank Forza. This is my good friend Noah Green, and hopefully soon to be joining us, Jordan Worth. And we do a podcast, Everyman BJJ. And today is June 14th, 2020. This is episode 21, and I'm joined Noah Green here, Manhattan's finest. And Noah, you just got off of a road trip. I told you I wanted to talk about it today because it was, and remember, I always say the first tell is the best tell. So when you and I were talking on the phone a couple of days ago, you had just got back, you got your dog, you went almost cross country to get this dog. And I just thought it was an exceptional, that's pretty extraordinary measures to go to just to get a dog. And so we know that I learned during my days in journalism and newsroom that that people love pets. A lot of people love pets and their dogs and their cats more than humans. And so tell us about why you felt inspired to go. Where did you go, and why did you feel inspired to go across the country?
Okay.
This dog, and what breed of dog is it too?
Okay. Well, good afternoon, Frank. Before I just kind of, I haven't told you that story. You just were like really curious about what happened. Before I say anything, this is because of Jordan, by the way. This is Jordan. Not really. My mats in the garage have Velcro on them when they attach. They're the Gracie Garage Jiu-Jitsu mats. Well, we were working butterfly guard sweeps, and I was drilling a move, and I got a good scrape on my forehead against the Velcro grips while we were training. So if you notice a little scrape there,
yeah, I'm just happy to know that that's not mad herpes.
Oh my God.
Because I was going to look at it. Remember, I actually got a chance years ago to interview Miguel Gorbachev, and I was looking at it, and I was kind of seeing a little Miguel Gorbachev in you. Miguel Gorbachev, the famous leader of, the former Soviet Union, and he had the, kind of like the birthmark. And so I saw that, and I thought, what's going on Noah's head? So thanks for bringing us up to speed on that.
Yeah, it's jiu-jitsu related. Just drilling on the mats, you get various, little tiny injuries and such. But so the dog story. So I was working and up until mid-March, and came home and working from home from all of, so that's 2 weeks in March, all of April, all of May, and a couple weeks into June. And I've been looking for a dog for my wife. She's got an old, what is that? I call it a mutt, and that's not nice, but it's what it is. It's not a Labradoodle. It's a cockapoo. It's a cockapoo. I don't even understand. So that's a Cocker Spaniel and a poodle. Anyways, it's ancient. It's it's so old. It's blind. We call her Granny around here. And I know it's about that time to get a puppy. And been talking to her, and we were looking at various breeds, and she wanted a Labradoodle, and I'm like, no, I want a purebred. And so she's a big, fluffy, and an active dog. And I have my criteria of something that's something more than just a rug ornament, something that actually will tear some flesh if we have an intruder or something like that. So it's an old English sheepdog, which these are traditionally, they're descended from the Russian Caucasian. So in the Caucasus, like Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, all the stands in Afghanistan, out in that area, they have sheep and cattle need to be driven. So these are dogs descended from the Ovcharka, the Caucasian sheepdog, and they're they're basically what's called drovers. So they'll drive sheep or they'll drive cattle. That's what they're designed. That's what they've been designed to do. And it's a large dog. Males get up to 100 pounds, and they're shaggy. They look like just a giant shaggy dog. And they're really cute when they're little. And I've just been wanting one. And we've been searching the internet. And I said, for her birthday, which is back in April, I said, if you find the dog, wherever it's at in the lower 48, I will go and get it for you. She found it, and one was available.
You've got to translate that for people out there who might not know what the lower 48 means. That you're referring to lower 48 states, the other 48 states, basically.
I said,
meaning translation for people out there, you meant wherever I have to go in the country to get this English sheepdog. Now, how come where you are? How come you can't just go and this is America? How come you can't just go and get an English sheepdog like within 5 or 10 miles? Why is it so hard?
Oh, well, well, first off, there's a shortage of puppies because, breeders, with everyone working from home, people are getting dog. There's like a lack of dogs. Really, it's weird. But she'd been searching
puppies in general. There's a shortage to your research. There's a shortage of puppies of any breed.
Right. Yeah. But this one she was looking for, and we'd searched, and it just turned out where we wouldn't find one for a while. So this one came available, and it was at a good price. So I jumped at it, and here's its. So it happened to be in. It was in Savannah, Georgia area, and I'm in Las Vegas. So the breeder's like, "Come get this dog. It's available right now, and normally I would charge $25 a day, but I know you're cross country. Would you come and get it?" This is the mother, and she's all shaved down. That's the mother, and then now she's shaved down. And let me see if I can find a father photo. Well, yeah, I can't. Let me get it to play again. You see, they're big, shaggy dogs. So he was really excited to see me. So the puppy. That's him. That's the guy. And
very sweet dog.
It's like Snoopy. To me, it looks like Snoopy. So he's already put on probably 4 or 5 pounds since I picked him up a week ago. So I took off on like 7:30 at night on a Wednesday, and I got there. I got to Savannah, Georgia, Friday night around 2 in the morning, and got up, had an appointment at 8:30 to pick him up, picked him up, scooped him up, and we were back on the road within half an hour. We'd already done our research, for doing this. But, when you obligate yourself, you got to come through with it. This is it, Now,
again, Noah, just to interject, you opted to drive cross country for this.
So the reason why I drove is because airlines, they're operating models for making money. Since they can't make any money with passengers, they've turned over their baggage holds to cargo holds to survive. And one of the first things they did was they started just banning pets as cargo. So right now, you cannot fly a pet across the country. But that's been the case, and otherwise it would have been a no-brainer to fly the puppy here. But that's also a very traumatic experience. It was traumatic taking him from his mother, taking him from mother and putting him in a crate and driving across country. But I'm there holding him and playing with him, versus sticking him in a crate and putting him on an airplane and having him fly across. So that just was not an option. And I talked about me being, here here in the house since mid-March, I'm used to traveling. I'm used to moving around and not getting out of the house all that time. I'm ready to get out of the house. So I listen to a lot of books whenever I do these cross-country trips, and I enjoy traveling. I usually drive at night, actually. And I got a shot.
I was going to ask you. So you're saying you opted to listen to a particular audiobook for this trip?
Oh man, I listened to like 8 of them. I finished about 8 of them. So it's like 33 hours each way. I had time. Yeah, we can go into that. There's a few there. But yeah, I listen to the audiobooks. And there's a pro tip out there for people who want to know how to get through audiobooks quickly. You don't have to listen to it at 1 time speed. If you're out like driving between, long stretches of road, you could put that audiobook up to 1.5 to 1.7 times speed, and it sounds pretty normal once you adjust, your listening speed. Yeah, you can crank through some audiobooks that way. I've been listening to Michael Pollan's. Michael Pollan has a book out on psychedelics, which is interesting to hear. That's the one I'm still listening to. That I'm not done with that one. But there's one I wanted to mention here with you today, and that's called Suggestible You, and it's by let me get the name. Give me a second. I'm just looking it up on my phone. By Eric Vance, and Eric is spelled with E-R-I-K. Vance, Eric Vance, Suggestible You. And that book's about 9.5 hours long. And you were talking before. We've clashed in the past about, not clashed, but we've gotten into the weeds a bit about spirit, having spirit, and the intangibles, the soft side of jiu-jitsu sport versus having that that more what I call like a Germanic process, Swiss German orientation of this planning, and then there's goal setting and a lot of technical rigor around how you approach jiu-jitsu as far as training from deliberate practice. So this book, Suggestible You, goes into the effects of placebos and the opposite of nocebos, and a lot of something that I strongly recommend people to listen to this book. It's
what if you already have an intuitive grasp of it inherently without reading the book? What if you already have an intuitive grasp of the power of placebo and nocebo, and it just makes sense to you, and you just that's a minority, but anyway, no, go ahead. So tell us about the book. Tell us about.
Yeah, well, no, I get it what you're saying.
What I want to hear. What I want to hear.
Let me.
About the book is,
someone's messaging me like crazy here. Let me mute them real quick.
Without telling us everything the book was about, what was your big takeaway? Your big takeaways from the book.
So,
how do you intend to apply it to your life? Where was it relevant to your life? There's a lot in the book, but what spoke to you, and how do you intend to apply it to your life? 2 points,
but you're going to eat this up, which is the strength of your belief affects the outcome of whatever you do. So if I give you a sugar pill, it's a placebo, and I tell you it's going to make you a better jiu-jitsu player. It's going to improve your guard. The power of your belief in that is actually, no matter, it just blows away the facade of the pharmaceutical industry, because there are vast numbers of drugs out, of the over-the-counter drugs and prescription drugs that have been around and approved for use prior to the FDA's double-blind studies. They would not have passed the double-blind studies versus a placebo, because there are drugs out there that before the double-blind studies came about would not pass the muster today, because some placebos, I should say, some drugs out there actually are less effective than a placebo. And so the takeaway, just the big takeaway from all this, is develop part of your jiu-jitsu game is what Frank Forza loves to talk about, and that's bringing confidence into your game. And if there's anything that I could say out of this book, it's that your level of belief in yourself will have a stronger influence than what you understand. The believing in yourself.
Yeah.
And that's a conversation point I wanted to get in a little bit in the weeds with you on. Let's go deep in this topic with you, because,
yeah.
You know, I don't know. We took a 2-week hiatus. You know, I had some things going on here on my end, and we've been regularly podcasting every weekend for 6 months. So, you know, I thought it was fun. You know, no harm for us to take a quick break, so I could be on the road and things like that.
So in keeping with the theme of the suggestible you and your, you know, top of mind, your takeaways from that. I was writing something recently. I've been redoing my website, and,
okay.
and I'm redoing some of my marketing literature for trying to get clients for writing and editing, and some of the human performance optimization and the storytelling expertise. So I'm redoing, you know, I'm like, you know, I have I have a couple of these things that I think I'm an expert at, that I've spent a lot of time with. So I'm redoing some of the websites, some of the literature, and I'm wrestling with what to include. And one thing I was writing about recently, I was sort of thinking about my life arc, like, right, you know, and you and I have talked about this before, where you sort of have these periods of your life where you're on a win streak, and you have these periods that feel like, in some ways, a lot of losing. It feels like there's a losing streak, and then, you know, so the arc, highs and lows, ebbs and, you know, ups and downs, ebb and flow, yada yada. And so when I was looking at as a kid, and I was thinking, like, what was exceptional about me as a kid? Because I'm a big believer that everybody that we meet, truly, deep down, everybody has something or some things that they're exceptional at. It might just be intangibles, or even if it's not something that's obvious, it could be a special quality. I believe that even very sinister people, I mean, there's a person, I won't mention his name now. He's an entrepreneur. He's out there. He stands for a lot of things that I don't stand for, but I respect his work ethic. I respect how committed he is to his cause. I respect how organized he is. I respect how serious he is about what he stands for, right? So there's always, we all have these gifts or these special qualities that we can build around, right? There's not just 5 or 10 or 20 gifts or skills that we have as humans. There are thousands of things under the sun that could come together to make a Noah Green or to make a Frank. You are truly unique. You become conditioned, you become programmed because of society, because of rules, because of limitations, because of parenting, yada, yada, yada. A lot of people become very limited, very closed-minded, and saying, oh, I'm supposed to operate in this little area, right? But we are intended to be very expansive and very broad people. And so everybody has these unique qualities or gifts. But I thought, well, what was unique about me? What was the light bulb moment for me as a 10 or 11 or 12-year-old kid in Baltimore? Skinny, shy as can be, scared out of my mind, right? I'm one of the only white people around. We have project housing behind us, right? So tough neighborhoods, scared kid. And I was just like so insecure, right? Bounced around from home to home to home, bounced around from school to school to school, scared out of my mind, insecure out of my mind, sitting there having conversations with God. And the one thing I realized is, Frank, no matter where you are, you always have your willpower, and you always have your mind power. You always have your drive. You always have your motivation. You always have your work ethic, right? These things that are priceless, these things you can't put a price tag on. They go wherever you go, right? You can look, we could sit there as a kid and say, all the things I don't have. I don't, my dad's not around. My mom's not around. I'm bounced around. I'm in a new school again. I'm getting picked on again. We can look at all the things and I'm like, well, what do you have? What did I have? I had an incredible will to win, the willpower and the mind power, right? That drive, that burning desire to win. And Napoleon Hill, I have that book right here. It's actually, as I'm talking to you, one of the things that's keeping my phone up is the book Think and Grow Rich. And he talks about that. Remember, part of the tease for Think and Grow Rich, which I highly recommend people out there, if you haven't read the book, read the book and then reread it and then reread it. It's a phenomenal book. He spent 20 years to do it. But one of the things he talks about, one of the teases for the book to get you to buy the book is the secrets of this book, the secrets of success, the secrets of super high performance, the secrets of you being the best you are in these pages. And it's mentioned at least 100 times. But I can't tell you what the secret is because it's best when you discover it with your own two eyes. It has more power. It has more meaning. I can't spoil it for you. You have to read it and you have to find it and discover it for yourself. And he says that. And of course, what he's talking about ultimately, there's wonderful principles in there to win, right? He's got like 39 or 40 winning principles. He interviewed the 500 richest people at the time in the world. But at the end of the day, the secret in there, I'll spoil it. Spoiler alert. So cover your ears for the next 15 seconds if you don't want to hear the spoiler alert. What's in the pages, that's the big secret. And the big secret is an intangible called, last chance, spoiler alert, burning desire. Burning desire is the first mover of us being our best self. It's the first mover. There are a lot of things there. If we're going to be the best person possible, if we're going to maximize our achievement, we're going to need material resources. We're going to need friends. We're going to need mastermind groups. We're going to need allies. We're going to need to be well organized. But it all starts with the burning desire. And Nietzsche used to talk about that, right? The great philosopher Nietzsche. Talk about, it's not just, it's, you don't need to worry about the how. You don't need to worry about the how. You need to worry about the what. And the what has to be a burning what. You're not going to let go. You're not going to stop. You're not going to quit that thing. Or you're going to, as Will Smith would say, the actor Will Smith, you're willing to die on the treadmill. Mark Cuban, sort of an example of that. Like that's a burning desire, like something you would die for, something you would shave years off your life for, something you would crawl in the mud for, something you'd be willing to even look humiliated for. You're going to keep going. Something that means something you would that if you could only teach a couple things in your life, right? If I gave you a choice, Noah, and I said, listen, you only get to teach these 3 or 4 things. Like you would be very conscientious about what those things are. You wouldn't just say, well, I want to teach 20 things or 50 things. You would be like, what are the 3 or 4 things you would shave years off your life for? You would suffer. You would go through a gauntlet for. You would die early for. You would risk your life for. And these are the things when we talk about now. This is so I realized that as a young kid, I realized that I had this exceptional tenacity, intensity to win, to try to be somebody. I wasn't the fastest. I wasn't the strongest. I wasn't the toughest. I wasn't the smartest, not even close, right? In fact, I was a wimp. But I did realize, man, there's something brewing in me that's like burning desire. Like I will physically risk and sacrifice myself to be somebody, to not feel scared. And so when you talk about the confidence, it's like I say, most people out there right now, Noah, you and I know, especially now, people are so scared. There's so much negative news. There's so much to be afraid of. It seems like the sky is falling in. There's so much chaos. There's so much uncertainty. And so if you're looking for insecurity in people, even people that are successful with financial, it is such an easy quality to find in people. Insecurity and deep insecurity. It's prevalent. It's an epidemic. It's more of an epidemic than COVID-19 is. It's more of probably the biggest epidemic out there is fear and insecurity. And so the antidote to that is its counterpart. It's intangible. We could call it faith, but we don't need to call it faith. We could call it this confidence that we're talking about. And that confidence is what frees you up to be in the zone, to flow, for your brain to work fast. If you're scared, your brain is not going to make those rapid, we start talking about high level Jedi stuff. That usually means whether you're playing chess, whether you're playing tennis, whether you're in a grappling, whether, the world moves fast. The world moves at warp speed. And there's a lot of decisions that have to be made fairly quickly. And to do that, you've got to be a pretty confident person. Yes, experience and all those other things go into that too. But I see a lot of people, I saw it in fighting. A lot of people are less, their performance is hurt. I would say the top killer of someone, and when I say good performance is relevant. It's relevant to what you're capable of. I would say the top killer is fear and insecurity. It's fear. And that's why I would say that confidence or faith would be the top thing, or even we could say spirit. It's different things to different people. We play a semantical game, but those things would be the biggest. Why? Because the biggest hindrance of people is the fear, the hesitation, the unworthiness, the negativity, the monkey mind. Those
the
are
uncertainty.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty right now with people.
Yes, something has to come in and beat the crap out of that fear and that uncertainty, and something has to come in and do that. And that force is confidence. That's the force. And then when you do that, now it's a matter of, okay, how hard are you going to work? And, how quickly can you make the decisions? Can you find the right people to be around, the right environment, show up day in, day out, other habits. But to me, the first move is confidence. I've seen so many people. I want to say one final thing. So one of the things I used to talk about in fighting was we would talk about the gym heroes. Now, for those of you who don't know, a gym hero is someone that is phenomenal in the gym, and they're when they get to the stage, when they get to the cage, or they get to the mat, their performance diminishes. Sometimes mind-bogglingly. Some people, their performance is it's just not even the same person. Some people are so good in the gym, and then they get to the mat, or they get to the cage, or wherever they get to the stage, and there's a huge drop-off, right? See that with singers, athletes. And so that's, of course, a mental issue, right? That's not a physical issue. And so when you see that, that's so common. There was a fighter, I don't want to say his name. He was out of American Top Team years ago. He was Brazilian. And people used to tell me, they'd be like, dude, if that guy in the gym showed up, he's the best fighter in the world at like 185 pounds. He'll beat everybody. He was a 500 fighter. And I think I might have told this story to you and to Jordan one time. This guy named Stevie Lockett. Remember I told you about the wrestling when I was in high school wrestling? Stevie Lockett, I was a very good high school wrestler. And I shouldn't even say, I should say, sorry, Stevie. Anyway, Stevie Lockett used to give me fits in practice, bro. And then we would go to the matches, and we used to have a bucket waiting for Stevie Lockett at the end of the match, and we would put it at the corner of the mat, because he'd come off the mat and he would throw up. He was so nervous. He was so overwhelmed. Stevie Lockett was a 500 wrestler. I think my senior year, I was 34 wins, 4 losses. I won 22 straight. I beat 2 state champions. I beat the defending county champion. I beat the defending regional champion. I had a very good year. Wow. I was 34-4. Stevie Lockett used to give me fits in practice. He was a 500 wrestler, literally a 500 wrestler. And so they exist at all levels. They exist in UFC. They exist in the NFL. And this is a mental thing. This is a confidence thing. It's a freeze thing. It's a hesitance thing. It's an unworthiness thing. It's an uncertainty thing. It's an insecurity thing. These are huge blocks. These are huge creativity killers. These are huge performance killers. And that's why I say, you see so many people in the gyms, and it's like, what's holding them back? This is the thing. How good, even the guy that performs well in training, I would argue, performs well in training and then subpar in competition or when it counts. I would argue that person we see in training would be way, way, way better if he was confident to begin with. In other words, what is he or she truly capable of if they were confident? What would he be capable of in training? Like even more than what we're seeing. And some of these athletes are the best in the gym. And there are other guys like Dominic Cruz was a guy, I never got to train with Dominic Cruz, but Dominic Cruz used to come when I was at Drysdale's. He used to come in with Lloyd Irvin and Brandon Vera and a bunch of them. And if you watch Dominic Cruz train, Dominic Cruz would lose a lot of rounds. And he was the champion. Dominic Cruz went 10 years now. He had some injuries in there, but he went 10 years without a loss. Okay. A fighter that reinvented the wheel. He was doing things technically and inventing his own style. People didn't know what Dom Cruz was doing. They couldn't figure him out. They couldn't crack the code. He overcame those 3 torn ACLs, as mentally tough as anybody. Dom Cruz lost a lot of rounds. But when it was time, when the lights came on, I mean, when the lights came on and that guy prayed or whatever he did and he made that walk, he was a different dude, bro. You couldn't convince him. You could not convince Dom Cruz making the walk that you could not unconvince him. You know, he was like, it's my day. And you could not unconvince him of that. And so that's what I'm saying for someone like you too, Noah. That is the gold. You have that gold. I can't tell you you'll be a world champion. I can't tell you you'll be the best thing since sliced bread. I can tell you, you will be exponential what you are today.
Mm-hmm. So having confidence is not just a mood, but it's an attitude. It sounds like it's something like a cloak that you put on. It sounds like confidence is something that you just actively choose to wear, as opposed to be in the mood for it. I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah.
No, it makes sense, Noah, because a mood suggests something that's more temporary, more fleeting, and an attitude suggests something more permanent and more habitual.
It took a while. It took a while when I was in my in some dark places. I had forgotten all of the things that I had accomplished. You forget when you're so down deep into the darkness. You forget all the things you've accomplished. And that's something that I've been going back to and reprising is, hey, stand up straight, fix your posture. That's like something big, fix my posture and stop holding your head low. Just your posture, changing your posture and walking with that posture, and somehow that changing your posture changes your attitude. There's a relationship there, and it is a bit like a switch, but you forget where to. When you're in the dark, it's hard to find anything. You're reaching for something, and so even like a candle burning will help light a room. But it really, so if you could tell me in your own words, what's the best way to light that, or to flip that switch?
Well, it's different. It's like what motivates one person might not motivate another. And motivation gets a bad name nowadays. I've heard people say, what you need is discipline, not motivation, right? I've heard a lot of that recently. Some very smart people, some very successful people saying discipline is more important than motivation. And I say to that nonsense. I say it's absolute nonsense. Discipline is a part of motivation, right? So for me, motivation is actually the first mover, like burning desire. Motivation, your why, is the first mover. It is the first mover. Discipline, if you have burning desire, then you're usually willing to do anything it takes. So in other words, if somebody is truly motivated or really has a burning desire to be something, the discipline will happen if they're serious about it. If they don't have a lot of motivation, then guess what? I mean, then they have a weak why, then they have a weak burning desire. Of course, they're not going to be disciplined. People who are serious about something are disciplined. Okay. If you're serious about something, if you were like burning on fire to do something, if you had a really strong why you have to do this, why you have to climb this mountain, why you have to be all you can be. Guess what? When you go to someone and you say, Frank, this is where I want to go. And I'm dead serious. And I tell you, Noah, this is what you need to do. You're going to do it if you're serious. If you're not serious, you're not going to do it. So people have, motivation actually is these intangibles of, the why, the burning desire, something deep in us that doesn't make sense to anybody else, but it makes sense to you. That's the seed. And so the motivation is huge. The discipline is definitely the companion of motivation. It's huge, essential, because if somebody has a very weak why, then of course they're probably going to have weak discipline. They're going to lose. They're going to fail, right? They have a weak why, or maybe their why. This is the thing, Noah. Somebody can have a weak why simply because they picked the wrong thing to aim at. So some people actually have very strong motivation and strong discipline. They just haven't figured out what to aim it at. They haven't figured out what's really worthwhile. Something out there means a lot to them. Something out there is precious, but they've misidentified it for whatever reason, or they're unaware of it. Everybody has in them a giant. It's true. They just haven't found maybe the right rhythm, the right groove, or the right thing to aim at. They're confused. They're monkey-minded. They're not committed to something. Somebody told them, somebody made them feel unworthy, and they listened to that person, and now they're scared to aim at anything because they don't feel worthy. Right? So the first thing is, really, I would say, is people need to find, like I said, what would you die for? What would you shave years of your life for? What if I told you got to get up and speak tomorrow and you only get 1 or 2 topics? What would you choose? Right? If people say, I don't know what to do, whatever. Okay, well, you got to speak about something tomorrow. What do you feel qualified to teach? Right? So now when you find those things, you say, okay, this is something that means something to me. I would be committed to this. I have a burning desire to this. This is something I feel like I would want to teach. Now the trick is, with the, hold on, I just lost my train of thought there.
Okay.
I had a really good point that I was going to mention. So if you have, when these are the first movers, so when we say, how do you identify what it is you should be doing? The most important thing is to know, what are you aiming at? If you don't know what you're aiming at, you're just throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. That's most people, unfortunately. We're throwing spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. Or this is what's popular, so I'll do this. This is what would sell, so I'll do this. And that's not it. Remember, most of us in jiu-jitsu and the fight sports and even wrestling, we weren't going to make any money. We were in it 15 years ago, 20 years ago, because we loved it. It wasn't about money. It was just so much fun to be on the mats, the camaraderie, to get to sweat, to be exhausted, to push yourself, to challenge yourself. Nobody out there who's been in this sport for 10, 15 years or jiu-jitsu was doing it to make a buck. That came later. That was a natural byproduct. So a lot of people are misaiming because they're just thinking about the money first, right? They're thinking as money is the first mover. Dana White used to teach me that, drilled that into my head, dude. That's a losing game. When money is the first mover, as much as we're a society that loves materialism, that's a losing game. You got to go.
It truly is.
You really got to go for, hey, what would you do for free? What would be priceless to you? What could you not put a price tag? We all need to figure out the material later, but it's really building around and saying that's what you're going to aim at. And that's how people, we can see some people would say, man, so-and-so is lazy. So-and-so is not motivated. So-and-so has no discipline. Well, it's because so-and-so is probably aiming at the wrong things. If we found the thing that means something to those people, everyone, I believe, we would find that they would be motivated, they would be hungry, they would have a good work ethic, and they would be disciplined. So you show me someone that doesn't have discipline, I'll just show you somebody that doesn't know what to aim at and doesn't know, or maybe is scared of commitment. They're scared to commit to anything because they think it's going to blow up on them for whatever reason. So this is a very important thing. Now, one final thing I want to say. I was a journalist for 15, 16 years, and I've interviewed conservative estimate north of 20,000 people. Everybody.
You still are a journalist.
Yeah. Everybody from billionaires to prison inmates, right? I went into prison. And this is the thing I would say. So I'm basing this on anecdotally on interviewing all these people and getting inside their brains and sort of even profiling certain people, what their word choices are, what their body language is, yada, yada, right? So this is like my anecdotal interpretation analysis of this.
Okay.
I would say that most people, when you say what should they be doing, for most people, if you want to know what, if you look in their childhood, you'll see the seeds of what they really would be passionate about. Somewhere along the lines, most people, if they wind up doing something, you could see the seeds of that at a young age in their first 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, 13 years. You could see that. So most people, but for some reason, somebody, some teacher, some parent, something happened to where they weren't confident enough and they were afraid to build a foundation there. And they were just wandering in the wind and trying to figure it out, lost, and let me travel the world, let me drink, let me go do experimental drugs, let me do whatever. Maybe it'll fall out of the sky and into my lap, right? And so a lot of times the first things, now what do I mean? An example of that would be this. When I was 8 years old, Noah, I was writing songs and poetry at 8 years old. Now, I had no idea I was ever going to be a journalist. I had no idea. It was just what was in me just to do, right? I just was like, give me a pen and paper and I'll make like 30, 45-second songs. Well, it turns out I only did journalism by accident. A professor came up to me and said, I had taken one journalism class, Noah, in high school, junior year. This is a perfect story for a lot of people out there. A lot of people out there, this is exactly what happens to them, and it happened to me. This is a perfect story. Junior year of high school, I took a journalism class with Miss Madsen. Miss Madsen failed me. I failed high school journalism, okay? A guy who went on to be a professional journalist and won 20-plus writing awards. I failed high school journalism. Not only did I fail high school journalism, Noah, but when I failed high school journalism, I also failed a chemistry class with another teacher. And so I was on the wrestling team, and here I was getting ready to go to the state wrestling tournament. I qualified for states, and we had to go to these two teachers and say, wait, we have a problem. Frank has failed chemistry and he's failed journalism, and therefore he will be declared ineligible for wrestling. He's a really good wrestler. So in order for us to make Frank eligible, we need one of you to change that grade from whatever, from an F to a D, and let him do extracurricular work, let him show up, let him do some other things to learn it. And as it turned out, the chemistry teacher was that teacher. Miss Madsen would not change the grade, would not let me do extracurricular, would not let me make it up, and failed me for high school journalism. Now, at that point, I mean, I was not thinking I was a very good writer. I went to the University of Maryland, and I took an English lit course. I took an English lit course, and I had a professor named Dr. Roberta McGuire. It was an African-American literature class, African-American literature. Read Frederick Douglass's autobiography, recommended reading 140.
It's a really good book. It's a good read.
Read that book. You want mental toughness, you want inspiration, it's a quick read, read that book.
So
I read that book. Anyway, my college professor, her husband was a journalist for the Baltimore Sun. So what she said to me carried a lot of weight. She came up to me after one class and she said, listen, Frank, you're a very good writer. Have you ever thought about writing for the school newspaper, the University of Maryland school newspaper? I had not. Nobody had ever praised me on my writing, though. I didn't even know. I had thought in the back of my mind, my mom used to write poetry, and I used to write poetry and songs. In the back of my mind, I always thought I was a good writer, right? But guess what? I was scared to put it to a referendum. I was scared to go to another authority after what happened with Miss Madsen, after what happened with high school journalism. I was scared to go to anybody and approach them and say, hey, I think I want to be a writer. I was scared of you're going to look stupid. Hey, dude, aren't you the same dude that failed high school journalism? You're not that. Nobody's ever, who's ever complimented your writing, Frank? Guess who had ever complimented my writing, Noah? Nobody. So I had this inner thing in me that was like, you can be a writer. You can write. But guess what? Nobody had ever complimented it, Noah. And I mean nobody. I mean mom. I mean aunt. Nobody had ever said, hey, Frank, you make good songs. You write good poetry. You write pretty good school, college papers. You should be a writer. It took me until my junior year of college for Dr. Roberta McGuire to say, you're a really good writer. You ever thought about writing for the school newspaper? Change the trajectory of my life. Now, this is what I'm saying, Noah. A lot of people never get a Dr. Roberta McGuire to come along. I got lucky. That somehow somebody sent that woman to say that, and her husband happened to be a journalist, and she was sweet as can be, and I believed her, like you said earlier, placebo. For some reason, I believed her, and I thought, hey, to write for the school newspaper, you had to audition. Okay, so you had to audition. So I was scared then because I'm thinking, I got to go audition. Guess what? They could pull another Miss Madsen on me. This guy, they're gonna reject me again. Then I'm gonna really look stupid, right? Dr. McGuire is telling me I'm good. I'm going to go audition, and I'm not going to make the cut. I'm not even a journalism student. I haven't taken a single. University of Maryland has one of the best schools of journalism in the country, year after year after year for decades. And I'm going to just walk on and audition, and so I had every reason to talk myself out of it. But guess what? My point is, most people have the same thing I had, which is there is some little voice inside them along the way which was saying, I think I like this writing. I think I could be really good at it. I think I'd be really good at it. And it's there from a young age. And for some reason, we kill that flame, or we let somebody else kill the flame, or no teacher steps up and says, I see this in you. Nobody steps up. And if you have good parenting and things like that, and you come from a good house, well, you might make it. But so many people fall through the cracks because they don't have that. They don't have the parents there. They don't have the mentors. They don't have anybody who sees anything in them except you're a young punk kid, or you're this. That's all they've heard, or they've heard whatever. And then they buy into it. And they're like, I am a young punk kid. Well, let me just be a cool young punk kid then. Let me just try to see how that works out for me. Let me do the young punk kid niche, right?
Yeah.
So this story really illustrates a lot of people fall through the cracks. And they fall through the cracks because they don't know what to aim at. And part of the reason they don't know what to aim at is they don't get a lot of help. A lot of people don't get a lot of help there. They're not encouraged. And they have a lot of people telling them, like I did, dude, you're terrible at journalism. What would be the odds of me being a professional journalist and being actually quite good at it, quite successful at it? It just goes to show you that you can't, there's a lot of teachers out there, and I'm not picking on teachers. There's a lot of wonderful teachers. There's a lot of teachers out there that could do a lot better job of encouraging the kids and planting the seeds. Of course, you'd hope parents would do that or relatives, but, coaches. One final thing on this, I would say, and I would say this is a good idea for a lot of coaches out there to swing it to jiu-jitsu or to MMA or to wrestling. When you're sitting there as a coach, it's not just our job to me, it's not just my job to make you better at jiu-jitsu or wrestling or self-defense. If I see a special quality in the kid, I will notate that to the parent, and it might have nothing to do. Because why? Because I don't want that kid to fall through the cracks. I just want to, even maybe the parents have heard it before, maybe they haven't. If this kid has some special whatever, and I'm like, it has nothing to do with jiu-jitsu, I'll go up to him and say, you know what? By the way, I think your kid has whatever. I admire the way they do this and this. Now, the parents may already have heard that or they didn't, but I'll make it known, like, there's some kids that have this charisma, they have a great verbal, and sometimes the parents just don't know. And so it's our responsibility, Noah. We're all planting seeds. We're all teachers. We're all students and we're all teachers. And sometimes just when you see a special quality in a person, don't be afraid to say, hey, I think you were exceptional at that. And it might not be this conventional skill, but we need to do more job of that. Sincerely, don't give someone a false compliment. When you see, I've done this with you. I wrote you a letter for something recently. Yeah. And I picked what was unique about Noah. I didn't pick, that those qualities would be different if I'd written it for another friend. But those things we need to say to the people in our lives. We need to say them sometimes to our students. We need to say them to the people around us, because otherwise it's amazing how many people, all they hear is criticism and condemnation from their own voice and from other people. We need to be more encouraging, even beyond jiu-jitsu. If you say, you know what, you're a great communicator. Have you ever thought about whatever? And I'm just saying, because like you're in the financial industry, you have an eye for certain talent. Maybe you'll meet somebody who's not doing that, but you could see a skill that would translate well into your ecosystem. Plant the seed. We don't do that because we're thinking, oh, I'm busy or I have no right to do that or whatever, but we're all seed planters. And that to me would help us to guide more people and remind them, you have this special quality, this special gift. Why aren't you using it? Well, I didn't know that. So people are out there wandering around aimlessly wandering, instead of very precisely picking and saying, this is what I'm going to aim at, and I'm motivated and I'm all in, and I'll wake up early for that, and I would shave years off my life for that, and that would be meaning. And if I could only teach one thing to people, I would teach that. So this thing of knowing what, like Noah, you're getting ready to pivot. This is something else we want to talk about on this podcast, this episode. You're getting ready to pivot into a different career thing. But this is, so, you're sort of reinventing or whatever, but you did find something with your financial Jedi-ness, what you were doing with accounting. You found something that wonderfully did fit you. It just so happens it's time for a pivot now, but you found a really good niche and a really good groove there with that. You did. And I've said before, I've never met an accountant that lit up talking about numbers and accounting like I did you. I mean, you stand alone at that. And now you're getting ready to pivot and aim at that. But you're very precise about it. You're not wishy-washy. You're very precise about it, and I like that about you. And a lot of people are wishy-washy, dipping their foot in the pool. And if you're wishy-washy, I would say go back to the beginning. Pay attention to the early years. What meant a lot to you? Probably what you need to be is somewhere in that skill set of the first 10, 12, 13 years. I'm a big believer in general that's where the secrets lie. And that's where the subconscious mind was programmed. That's where it was programmed. You can certainly unprogram it. I'm not saying, but a lot of times you don't need to unprogram everything. You just need to unprogram the negativity and the fear and the uncertainty. You don't need to unprogram oh, that I liked writing. I mean, like, no, I love writing from a young age. I don't need to unprogram that. I need to go and dig that up and bring that to the light and build it more. So a lot of people, I would say, if I sat down with them, I would walk them through, like, well, what did you like doing early on? And then a lot of times they're not doing that anymore. And it's like, well, why did you stop doing that? You used to be really good. You used to love doing that. Why did you stop? And then you see this delineation. Why did they stop? Some trauma, some whatever. I thought I sucked or whatever. And because that's the thing. People had something they loved doing. Even exercise. People, it's kids. A lot of people are out exercising, running, move. Now we see all these sedentary adults. What the hell did they stop for? Why did they stop? Why did somebody stop going to the park, stop walking, stop running? Why do people stop? They used to love, kids love running around and skipping and playing and chasing balls and whatever. Kids love that. Why do people stop? Why do they stop doing that? And they get, you mean to tell me you got so much enjoyment out of that as a kid and you wouldn't have any fun moving your body? And give me a break. Everybody loves, like, testing their body, dancing, moving, being, walking, hiking, cycling. You start getting in a groove of that. That is uplifting. Why do people stop doing that, Noah? Why do they stop doing that?
That's that question. I think you'll remember more of the early and premature. Your why, to reconnect with your whys. I think for me, I'm speaking for myself. I cannot remember the reasons why I've broken or gotten disconnected from that. Because why? Because of life. Because of responsibilities. Because of situations come up, relationships occur, and I would. While you were speaking, I was looking for a quote that I had posted earlier in the year on my LinkedIn account. I can't find it, and it came from one of the fighters that I was listening to on a podcast. And unfortunately, I was trying to find it to mention it here because it really brings it home.
Mm-hmm.
But reconnecting with that why. I don't know if it's story time or not. You gave a really good story about your child, your years in high school and how that's launched you into journalism. If you want to talk about taking years off your life, I would tell you right now that I will give up years of my life to earn my black belt under Renzo. Because of something so simple, of the tribe feeling of belonging to a tribe. Growing up, I grew up also in I had stepfathers, not one, stepfathers. And I saw some things growing up, as a child. Children are not supposed to see your mother's husband with a knife to her abdomen. You're not supposed to see her in the hospital with broken, with her eyes beaten in, her face swollen. You're not supposed to see these things. And I grew up saying, this is not right. And feeling very hating my childhood, hating it, truly with pure anger of like, why did she even have me if she was not capable of supporting me? And she has to go from man to man, and in those situations, put us in the situations in which she was not prepared for, financially or emotionally, these kind of things. So in what you just said about finding, reconnecting with your why, that's why the lure of me being in the band in high school and then later on joining the Marine Corps. And I've said it many times since I got out, I will spend the rest of my days trying to reconnect with my tribe, whatever that is. And I found it at Renzo's, you know, with them, because the sense of brotherhood, sisterhood, if you may, on the mats gives you that feeling of connection, and it also gives, it's just a life development. It's a personal self-development tool. So, you know, you talk about finding your why. Finding your why, I would need to, I know that right now where I'm at, I probably need to reconnect and refine through the lenses that I have of 48 years old, refine how to harness that energy again. And instead of making a big goal, maybe start out with some small goals. You know, just small goals to get movement. You know, to get rehabituation occurring. You know, small goals, very small goals, and that's how I think when you're in darkness, is that, you know, from what I've seen, just make very small goals, make them very small, and just accomplish those. You know what? For me, it was washing dishes. I was just washing, you know, I started washing dishes, and that there's something that makes you feel really good when you're scrubbing off, and, you know, from taking a sink full of dirty dishes and washing them, getting up and just washing them and putting them away, and don't go to bed at night without washing all your dishes. You know, I mean, because you know, there's a lot, there's something to that. And I would say to guys out there who are married, don't leave that to your wives to do. Get up and do the dishes. Men do dishes. Real men do dishes. You know, it's good for you. It's good for you if you get in there and scrub the pots. You know, you know, if I were let loose, get in there and, you know, like, pots start to get some stuff on them where you need to really shine them down. You know, to really, you know, you get a little obsessive about making them very clean again, like new. So there's something to just doing those small things daily. You know, of just do your dishes, take out the trash. I got a cat, so I have to make it a habit of constantly scooping his litter every day. Scoop that litter. You know, it's these little things, little small goals like that, because the big things are mostly composed of small things. The major accomplishments are small things. And as far as confidence, I think, you know, if you're like, yeah, I'm getting these little things going, I'm handling things, you know, I'm, you know, you're keeping your nails clean, you know, you're taking care of your self hygiene. I think that's huge. I'm letting, by the way, don't loop in my beard in that category. I am letting it grow out for a reason. All right, I'm trying to match the dog. So, you know, start small, and while you're starting small, that gives you time to develop momentum, to go into the harder things, like go out into the, you know, I've been staying up late at night and sleeping in. Now I'm going to push myself starting tomorrow, which is tonight. Get my ass to bed early, and not stay up late. You know, I like to stay up late because it's quiet. I don't have to deal with distractions.
5 a.m. is quiet too.
So is 4 a.m. 4 a.m. is the magic power hour.
Yeah, I've heard that. You know, some about 3:10 or 3:11 a.m. and this and that. 3:30 a.m. I've heard. Yeah, that's something with the moon or the cosmic alignment or whatever.
So I'm going to make a small goal and accomplish it. You know, I feel like for me myself, I'm like a battleship, but I can pivot, and I'm going to turn everything on its head and start and flip over to become more like a Jocko Willink hour, the 4:30 kind of guy.
Yeah.
That's a small goal, but it's a big one. It's like, okay, I like having that open-ended, I can stay up late kind of mindset. I can stay up as late as I need to get, to keep working on it. But what happens is you push off, you procrastinate, you're like, yeah, I'll get to it tonight. And you get to it later tonight. And, you let other things get up in the way. So I'll just flip that paradigm and get up, start getting up in the mornings.
I'm generally a big believer that whatever it is that's most important are the things you should be doing early in the morning. I really believe that. And like, the first 4 or 5 hours of your day, brain at peak power, peak energy levels. There's exceptions. I'm just a big believer. Kind of like, how they say, you want to see somebody's value system. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I hear you fine.
If you want to see people, if you watch how people spend their time and how they spend their money, they'll reveal their values to you, right? People can say whatever, but if you watch how they spend their time and how they spend their money, their values are revealed. And it's the same thing, I would say. Whatever we're prioritizing early in the morning when we have our peak energy, generally speaking, is a pretty good window into what's really important. And again, just like you, I have been very nocturnal throughout a lot of my life. And I've had quite a bit of success being nocturnal, but I have realized, especially now as you get older, because as you get older, you're not a 20, 25-year-old kid anymore. And it's like your energy, I don't have the same energy I had at 20, 25, when I could just impose my will. I could sleep 4 hours, go cut lawns, landscape for 7 hours, go play basketball for 2 hours, go lift weights for an hour. And then we would eat dinner, go out until the wee hours of the morning, sleep 4 hours, and then do it all over again. Right. And then study and whatever else. And now I'm realizing that prioritization, organization, mapping out the day is a big deal. And so what do we do those first waking hours, literally from the time our eyes open? What are we doing? What are we downloading? What intention are we setting? And that usually sets the tone for the day. It just does. It sets the tone of productivity for the entire day. So I commend you that you're going to switch it up. I think that's a big thing. It's like, it is common sense. It's like, if you've been doing a lot of something and it hasn't been working, you just got to shake it up. And whether or not that means there'll be more productivity, it's just something you need to explore, just like do the opposite for a while and see, stick with it for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, and see how that works. And then, it's the same with food and diet. I don't go by what everybody says when everybody's like keto or this or that. I experiment with myself. I play with it for myself. And I say, does that seem like it's right for me? Or how much of that seems to be working for me? You can't just sit here and, like you said, start waking up. Is 4:30 going to mean an even better Noah, a greater Noah? Well, try it out. I would say to what you said earlier about suggestible you and placebo. If you believe it's going to be phenomenal for you, it's probably going to be phenomenal for you. Bingo. It's probably a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if something is impelling you and pulling you in that direction, and you already have a bias, you already have a belief that it's going to work in your favor, it's probably going to work in your favor, right? Yeah. A lot of things are self-fulfilling. Bruce Lee used to say, you're as tired as you think you are.
Wow.
And,
oh, yeah.
You're as tired as you think you are. How tired are you? Well, what did he mean by that? What he meant by that is the moment a fighter starts to put a lot of their focus and their awareness on I'm tired, it starts to amplify.
Or I'm hurt.
And now the same person that's worried about being tired is looking at the clock, is thinking, oh, I hope this match is over soon, is doubting themselves. And then it becomes an avalanche, right? It amplifies. So he would say, he wasn't saying you're not tired. He was just saying, don't worry about you being tired. The other guy's tired too. Keep going. Keep doing what you do. Worry about something else. Worry about winning. Worry about Worry about execution. Worry about being in the moment. Worry about those things. I shouldn't say worry, but focus on being in the moment. Focus on execution. Focus on, executing what you prepared for, focusing on doing what you're working your strategy. Don't sit there the moment you're worrying about, oh my gosh, there feels like a lot of lactic acid. Oh my God, I think my grip is gone. Oh my God, this. Well, man, if you're in there against a tough opponent, you're screwed, because Robbie Lawler is probably not worried about how tired he is. He's still trying to get you, right? Like at a peak. The great ones are not worried about how tired they are. They're just worried about getting you. They're confident they're going to get you. They're in the moment. They're thinking, a real champion would think, look, if I'm tired, he's twice as tired. I'm a little tired, but he's twice as tired. So I'm going to push the pace even more. So it's a lot of things are, as you were saying with placebo. Placebo is phenomenal, because what I've read on my research, and I haven't read the book, and I'll be happy to take a peek at it, but what I've seen with placebo is a lot of placebo, low-level placebo is like 37-38% consistently. So you're looking at almost 40% of the efficacy of all the drugs is just getting someone to buy in. And that's low level. That's the low level. There are people out there, and I would be someone who would suggest to you that placebo is actually even more than half. The low level says placebo is 37-38% of all the successive things. Some other people like me would argue to the contrary and say, wait, placebo is built into everything so heavily that it's probably more than half of the successors. And Time Magazine had a story on this many years ago about faith and, belief systems and whatever. And it's like, Noah, have you ever seen on YouTube, have you ever looked in, like, I think it's like the Indian cultures where they put all the needles and they hang them and all that stuff, all that crazy stuff where they put the needle hooks in them and they hang them, and it's insane. And you're like, who would, it's kind of like our views with snakes. Like, I have a buddy who's the biggest yuppie. He does pretty well financially. He's the biggest yuppie, but he's got this snake thing, and he's got kids, and he gets his kids to play with snakes, and they go in the park and they're playing with snakes, and he's trained his kids to identify snakes and not be afraid of most snakes, right? And they play with, the kid will have a picture with snakes and on. I'm like, but again, he's trained them, like, and you look at certain cultures, like the Indian culture, where they have reverence for certain animals that we don't, or, whatever, a rat or a snake. And it's like, there's just belief systems around this in general. We've totally, you could, if you went and researched the serpent, right? Serpent comes from a Latin word, we call them snakes, but the serpent version of that comes from a Latin word. And a serpent is actually yin yang. The serpent, some people would revere the serpent for it being, hey, the serpent is so wise and so smart. And some people would say, no, the serpent is so sneaky. And then somebody else would say, well, it's both, right? It's yin yang. It's the forces of all. And so I would say that, gosh, I even lost my train of thought there. But what was I saying before that, Noah?
Well, you were talking about how your yuppie friend was training his kids to be around snakes.
So talking about these belief systems and placebo, there is a lot to believe. Again, you can certainly reach a point that this is one of the phrases that I coined a couple years ago, and I talked about it, and I did it on my social media, and I made a little meme out of it. And like I said, Nike has now made a campaign, which is almost the same thing I said. I did it a year and a half before Nike did its award-winning promo, and it was, you're crazy until it's true. I made this meme. It says, crazy till it's true, meaning you are crazy. You're a madman until it's true, until you prove it's true, right? Until the world catches up to you. Einstein, with his first theorem, was a madman, was crazy, was wrong, until 17 years after that theorem, they were like, oh my God, that guy's right. That aloof guy that doesn't know how to find his class at Princeton or whatever, he's right? That theorem is right, and that theorem can change the world. And so you have to be willing to be crazy, and hopefully, you have enough sanity to realize that this is a real dream. You're a real person. You're courteous. You're a good person. You're not just total madman, but you're mad in all the right ways. You're a little crazy in all the right ways. You're crazy enough not to believe what everyone else says. You're crazy enough, no offense to you, Miss Madsen, if you're watching, I forgive you, but you're crazy enough not to believe the Miss Madsens of the world. You're crazy enough to be like, Miss Madsen was wrong. But wait, Frank, she's she's teaching high school journalism. She knows better than you. Well, I'm sorry. I love you, Miss Madsen. I forgive you, but you were wrong, right? And you had a chance to see something in me. So you do have to be like Monty Cox said to me many years ago. He was at one point the most prominent manager in MMA, and he said, all the good fighters have a screw loose. You've got to be a little mad, a little bit crazy in just the right ways to believe that sort of that placebo, that belief system of like, no. Now, again, one asterisk to this, Noah. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to be a world champion. A lot of people aim at like, I'm going to be the Olympic champion, I'm going to be the world champion. There's only a small percentage. It's not about that. When we talk about aiming this at things, it's not fair for most people out there to say, I want to be world champion Olympic. I think that that's a measure that, you know, very few people are going to be on that, reach that level. The real thing really is, even if I didn't win a world title or a Super Bowl or an Olympic title, something that you would do that you would just be so proud and you would enjoy so much. And like you said, with your black belt with Renzo Gracie, right? You said, you know, that would mean so much to you. And when you said that, I was thinking of that on an empowerment level, because I was thinking about your childhood, and I was thinking about what you were saying with your mom and the boyfriends and the abusive boyfriends. Yeah. And I thought a black belt would mean almost like the scared Noah, like the strong Noah, the confident Noah, the guy that it takes, the guy that you would. Jim Rohn used to say that. Jim Rohn used to say, don't worry about what you're earning. He said, when you go to get a job, don't ask them foremost about what are you earning. Worry about what you're becoming. What will it take? What would you be forced to become in order to pull that off? Like he would say, earning is, you know, third or fourth or whatever on the list. It's not the top thing. The top thing is, if I make this goal, what would I have to become to do this goal? And is that a worthy thing? Is that a worthy becoming? And so for you to pull off the black belt, you would have to become something. You would have to become something very far away from that kid that was born in that house and all that fear and all that insecurity and whatever else you were feeling. The black belt would be a symbol. It would be a symbol of, not only are you a part of this fraternity and you're part of this tribe, but it is a symbol, a very concrete physical symbol of empowerment to say that this is a different Noah. This is not the same Noah as that Noah. And it's a measure of progress. It becomes a measure of, well, how do I know? How do I know I'm far and away, I've grown and evolved tremendously and developed tremendously? Well, that black belt is a reminder. It's a look down to say, look, they don't just hand these out. Everybody doesn't just get one of these, right? Yep. You have to earn this, especially from Renzo Gracie. You have to earn this thing. You have to go through the doubts. You have to show up. You have to go through the, you know, getting tapped. You have to go through being submitted. You have to go through the risk of injuries. You have to go on the days you don't want to go, which is many days. You have to go on the days when maybe your spouse doesn't want you to go because, you know, whatever, and you have to go. And so that becomes a symbol of the empowerment. That becomes a symbol of the development. That becomes a symbol of the evolution. And who is it going to mean the most to? It's going to mean the most to people that were scared, really scared at one point in their life for probably years. People that were scared and were scarred. Isn't it amazing how the words scared and scarred, there's only one R that distinguishes them, scared and scarred. They're very similar words, right?
Yeah,
scarring.
It's just one more R.
Yeah. So to me, when I heard you say that, you know, when you do get there, and again, like you said, there's little goals, you don't worry about the black belt, but that's what when you think about your why, that's the big why. And now you just worry about the day in, day out. You're a blue belt. You worry about each day, each practice, getting the most out of that practice. But the placebo thing, man, I would say, like I used to say to people, the cardinal sin of competition or a speech or any performance is, if you don't believe you're going to win, you just shouldn't show up. I'm sorry. I in general, unless you're doing one of your first 3 or 4 tournaments, if you're a young athlete and you're scared and you don't believe you're going to win, I understand that. Once you get to like your 5th or 6th or 7th tournament, whatever, if you don't believe you're going to win, I just say, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I would just say, I don't like to show up for things. I don't feel like I at least have to believe I'm capable of a really good performance. And if I don't, I'm talking about by your standards, I'm talking about performance by Noah's standards, doing the things that you've trained to do, doing things to the best that you know you can do them. I'm not saying it has to be Noah wins. But I'm saying you go out there and you believe. This is the thing with belief. When you really believe, it doesn't mean that you're prepared for everything that can happen on a mat. Anything can happen on that mat. You could see something. We watch videos. You could see anything. So this guy, your opponent, could do something you never saw and your coach never even saw. That's possible. Like, man, none of us have ever seen it quite that way, right? Anything can happen out there. But what it means is that you're thinking that, to me, the champion meaning the person in you, the best Noah, doing your best. It means let's find a way. We'll find a way to win. We'll find a way, even if it means Noah has to hit a move. You're really confident when you hit a move that you're like, well, we didn't really even show Noah that, or maybe he just saw it in a video, or maybe we don't even know why he did that. John Jones does things like that, right? As an example. And it's like, that wasn't even in the script. He does things in the fight that weren't even in the script, right? He improvises.
Yeah. Let me abstract real quick.
Yeah.
I just want to abstract real quick of what you're saying here, that it's not just on the mat. You know, what you alluded to earlier about me making pivots in my career, I'm making pivots in my career to go into an area which will support my desire to accomplish the goal of training at Renzo's in New York. And that, you know, I'm making life changes to accomplish that goal, because the kind of work I've been doing in finance and accounting, it's just impossible to, you know, the strain and the tax on you as a banker allows for nothing else in your life, really. I mean, it really takes over everything in your life. You really don't have hobbies. You try to have follow sport, or if you can, but you really don't have much time for anything else. And so I'm making some career moves that will provide support, financial support, career, a setup to where I can go to train, where I can go to Danaher's class in midday. You know, that's what I'm headed towards, and I'm willing to sacrifice, big money for less money, but to accomplish goal. You know, and the accomplished goal for me is to belong to the tribe. There's sacrifice there, and that's what I'm going to live that. I'm going to live those values. Small. I'm starting small. I started taking Coursera program, teaching myself Python programming, and I'm looking to get into a graduate program that will accelerate the transition. But in the meantime, I still need to find another role that will support me over that bridge time. I have to do a bridge over. So that's what I'm in the hunt for right now, is to find that bridge role until I can fully change. Because I'm a bi-coastal kind of person. Where I have family out the West Coast, and my career in Renzo's is in the East Coast, so I got to go back and forth, and that's not easy. But this is it's not easy going to jiu-jitsu every day. I love it. I love it. I miss it, and that's what I want to do. So I want to put myself in the right place for that. And so it starts with me doing dishes. I probably need to really force myself to get up early in the mornings. Renzo's has a morning class, and the guys always talk about how good the guys who go in the morning are. I think I've gone one time to a morning class. I'm more of an evening class guy. When I go to the 7:30 to 9 class, because I can never get out of work in time to hit the 6 to 7:30. That just hadn't been possible before. So down to the brass tacks of things, I'm trying to make this happen. I'm willing to sacrifice everything to get there. Because Renzo's is, the monthly tuition at Renzo's is not cheap. It's not cheap. This is not trivial. And then to support a family, you got to make some sacrifices, and in more than one way. And I'm willing to do that. So I know that's a long-winded response, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we were starting to run down on time here.
Speaking of that, you and I were talking about reinvention, right? That this is a season where a lot of people are. It's a perfect time. I mean, there's a lot going on in the world. There's plenty of negatives. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of people arguing, people debating, a lot of division in our country, but there's always going to be upsides, right? There's always going to be opportunity. There's always going to be good people. There's always going to be good places. And so for this time of reinvention, like for me, I've noticed, of course, I'm out here in Utah in nature, and I'm doing a lot of writing, and I've noticed that I've really reconnected with music. Again, I was making songs at 8 years old. Now I could have said very easily to myself, Frank, you're going to be a starving artist. If you sit here and you're making songs, you're wasting your time. You've never made any money. Maybe some people will hear you sing and they'll say you suck. And I could come up with 1,000 reasons why it's a bad idea for me to go and perform with some of my friends and play around and freestyle music. I could think of 1,000 reasons, but at the end of the day, I look in my soul, and like I said, it was there when I was a kid, and it's there now. It's never went away. I'm like, why? I love making music. And if I never make money, the same with jiu-jitsu, if it's just priceless to my soul. That music, making music, sitting there performing with friends and just taking something that's deep inside you and bringing it out. And sometimes when you freestyle, when you make music and you just freestyle, you don't even know what's going to come out, and it comes out, and you play around with your voice. I lose my mind, the same as I did in jiu-jitsu. I lose myself in that action. I lose myself in that activity. It's time stands still. I don't think about, well, this bill is due, or there's this problem in the world, and there's all the division. I don't think about any of that. I am in the moment. And so what is that worth to someone's soul? It's priceless. So in this time of reinvention, some of it would be monetary. Certainly I'm making pivots too. I think a lot of us are. A lot of things are moving to digital and on, even more digital and online. That's accelerating, where everybody is really ramping up with content and everything. So the world is changing very quickly. Mm-hmm. But I would still say, even for like things, people will call it a hobby, right? They would say, well, this is a hobby. I don't like the word hobby, because I think hobby cheapens something that's important to you. Jiu-jitsu is huge to you. It's huge to your life. So for someone to call it a hobby, I actually think that cheapens it. I don't buy that. For someone to call music, I've done music since I was a kid, right? Even though I never made any money. For someone to call it a hobby, it's like, it cheapens what it's worth to me. It's worth so much to my soul. I don't consider it a hobby. We can call it a love. We can call it a passion. I'm not professional, but we can't let that stop us. You just have to say, I love it. It might not make sense to anybody else that you go to train, or you spend $300 a month, or whatever you spend to go train. It might not make sense to people that I go spend 2 hours a couple times a week, or that I'm sitting here sometimes and I write songs and like, well, you didn't make any money, but guess what? I just derive a lot of enjoyment out of it. It's peace of mind. It's peace of mind. It's expression. So these are the kind of things. Now, maybe I'll figure out a way to say, hey, you know what? Noah has a small business. Maybe I'll write a song for you, or so. Maybe I'll write a jingle. I mean, I'm certainly capable of that, right? So I'm not saying that at some point it won't morph into a monetization. It might, but it's not the primary reason. The same with jiu-jitsu. A lot, Gary, whatever, Gordon Ryan and these other guys. I mean, Gary Tonin. It doesn't start off. Nobody enters it and says, I think I can make a lot of money. I think I can make millions. I'll do jiu-jitsu. I'll sign up for this. It doesn't work like that. So maybe along the way, they'll come up with ways, but it's not a primary or a secondary motive for me. I just realized I love music, just like I love jiu-jitsu, just like I love wrestling. It's not going to make sense to a lot of people. I don't make a lot of money at it, but guess what? It's part of me. It is part of my why. Like, I would be willing to shave some years. If someone told me, Frank, you can never sing again the rest of your life. Or, someone said, hey, I'll let you, I'll give you $10 million and you never sing again in your life. I couldn't take it, bro. I couldn't take it. That's how much it means to me. That's how important it is. Like, to have that avenue, that avenue of expression, that just the feeling of that, the feeling I get, the enjoyment, the lost, getting lost in the right ways in action and in doing and in being. So these are very, there's something going on with the world now, with the cosmos, or the vortex, or something in the world now. There's a lot of challenges for us there. I would say to a lot of people out there, if you're watching, I definitely would advise you to limit to a couple hours a day, whatever time you're spending on social media and however much you're devouring a lot of this negativity. I would recommend no more than a couple hours a day, and lose yourself in action like Noah's doing, where Noah, you're studying for that test to get your master's, for that master's program, where I'm losing myself in music. We're talking about jiu-jitsu, martial arts. just doing more of the things that we really love to doing, designing your life so that you can do more of the things you really enjoy doing, because life's short. It's just short. Mm-hmm. And we certainly realize that, you know, at our age now, Noah. So anyway, it's been a great video podcast, Noah. I always appreciate we lost our main man, Jordan Worth, but we will be reconnected with him. And we'll be back here. Episode 22 will be next week, 1:30 Pacific time and 4:30 Eastern time on Sunday. And if you want to reach us by email, any correspondence, any positive comments, any critical feedback, everymanbjj@gmail.com. I'm Frank_Forza on Instagram, Frank Forza on Facebook, and Noah Green. Noah, what's your Instagram?
Big Mean Green. Big Mean Green.
Big Mean Green.
Yeah, I check it off and on. Best way to get to the show is everymanbjj@gmail. But Frank, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed our conversation. It's a good 2-week catch up. We have more to talk about next week. All right. So
thank you
take care, sir.
Be blessed, Noah. Bye, buddy.
Take care, sir. Bye.